All right, so I'm answering questions over here on YouTube as opposed to Instagram this week because on this platform, I have a chance to let my ideas breathe a little bit. We can capture a lot more nuance and weigh the pros and cons of all the different variables and that go into like good decision making. And so I figured I'd give it a shot on here. We'll see how it does, and if it does well, then we'll keep it going. The plan here today was to answer these questions as I run through a workout that I'm currently doing in a program that I wrote for myself. And I'm a fucking idiot. I just deleted 19 minutes of footage because I was shooting in vertical as opposed to horizontal. In YouTube, you want portrait, not vertical. And so I'm a jerk off, and lesson learned. So I just completed a set of, I just completed sets of cleans. I did 4 sets of 2 cleans with ascending working sets. So I did 135, 145, 155, 165, and now I'm on deadlifts. All the exercises in this particular workout are taken to technical failure with the exception of the clean. With the clean, I don't really like going to true technical failure. I find that when you're doing the Olympic lifts, a better spot to kind of stay in is in that kind of like 70 to 85% rep range. You know, it's really, you can just be snappy, move the weight quickly and confidently, and that's kind of how I like to program those. And again, making incremental progress as I go, getting stronger and stronger on those lifts. But now I'm on to the max strength segment of the day, and I'm doing deadlifts. And here, I'm just gonna aim for 2 sets of anywhere from 3 to 5 reps. I did a warm-up set at 225. I did another set at 245, and that still felt fine. So I'm throwing on another 20 pounds, and this is taking me to 265, and we'll kind of see how this goes, and then I'll start answering some questions. So let's see. All right, 5 reps. That felt good. You might have caught the switch grip at the end there. I have a right elbow that doesn't fully flex or extend, and I have some grip issues on this right hand sometimes. So I advocate for a mixed grip beyond a certain point, but I try to do double overhand for as long as I possibly can. I probably should get some wraps or some straps. I don't know why I don't have a pair of straps, but anyway, that's me. All right, first question. Have you ever seriously thought of quitting because you felt you sucked so bad? So I can honestly say that I've never really thought about quitting because I truly love this thing. I love jiu-jitsu. I love Muay Thai. I love combat sports. I don't really see myself ever quitting. However, that doesn't mean that I haven't been discouraged at times. So I'll share a story with you. So I used to train under Marcelo Garcia in New York City, okay? Back at that time, I kind of viewed it as the golden age of jiu-jitsu in New York City. After COVID hit, jiu-jitsu in New York City really changed, but at that time, in the before times, it was really special. Like Marcelo had Bernardo Faria teaching, had Paul Schreiner teaching. Marcelo himself would teach, several classes each week, and it was really special. We had all these like really great competitors at the time, like Mateus Denise, and still great competitors. Dylan Dennis, whatever you think about him, whatever. At the time, he was a brown belt and a new black belt, and he was on top in the New York Jiu-Jitsu scene. We had Munch, and there was Adam Benayoun and Gianni Grippo. There was like all these like really excellent competitors, and then there was like this orbit of guys and gals who trained kind of with the really top competitors, like people who you probably haven't heard of, but they were like really savage competitors in their own right. And then that trickled, there was like an orbit underneath those guys, you know what I mean? So there was this like trickle down savagery that just was going on in that place. There were no easy rounds. And so I went from a school that was like super chill, and there were some really tough rounds, but like not the volume of competitors that Marcelo had. And I started competing a little bit more seriously. And so, again, just a hobbyist, but like, it was a central part of my life. And I would do, 4 times a year or something like that. So nothing crazy, but for me, it was important. And so I made the switch to go to Marcelo's, and every fucking round for that first like 8 months, I was getting my dick kicked in. Like, it was just intense. Everybody was a killer, and I mean actual fucking killers, okay? You see guys post on their social, open mat with these killers, and it's like 5 fat guys in pajamas, you know what I mean? It's like every person in this room was a fucking absolute murderer. And when I first got there, it was like a shock to the system. I was getting my ass handed to me on a routine basis. And I remember, like, I'd be trying to sleep like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm just thinking about, oh man, I zigged when I should have zagged. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like not performing well for like months. And I look back at that time and that discouragement as some of the most influential and accelerated progress that I've ever made in jiu-jitsu. Like, you have to lose a lot before you get good. It's like, not to make the corny jiu-jitsu chess analogy, but it's just like that. Like, if you want to get better at chess, you have to, everyone starts out chess with a 1200 rating, right? You sign up for chess.com, or you do a local chess tournament, and whatever, your rating is 1200. Like, that's where you start. And then people either go down or up if you're really good. Most people go down and then they go up. And that's exactly how it is in jiu-jitsu. You start jiu-jitsu, right? You get wrecked for a long period of time, and then you start to move back up. And then eventually you're one of the best guys in the room. But every best guy in the room that you've ever met in your entire life had a period of sucking really bad. And so don't get discouraged. Like, all you're seeing are these little snapshots of like discouragement and poor progress, but really you're finding out what works. If you go from surviving a round for 0.3 seconds to 0.5 seconds, that's a win. You just progressed a little bit. When you get wrecked on a routine basis, you're finding and learning what doesn't work, which is almost more valuable. You can make the argument that that's more valuable. You're kind of whittling away the unnecessary. And so don't get discouraged. Like, I don't know where you're at or what belt you are or how long you've been training. It doesn't matter. Like, just keep on moving forward. I would actually kill to be in a room of absolute killers who like wreck me on a daily basis. Like, I would actually love that, because after a while, when you've been doing this a long time and you reach a certain level of proficiency, and again, I'm trying to say this in the most humble way possible, because again, like I don't think I'm like some jiu-jitsu guru or anything, but there comes a point where you're like kind of like the best guy in the room. And again, granted, I'm training in a much smaller community these days, so like that definitely plays into it. But when you've been doing it a long time, you're gonna be one of the better people in the room. And like, it actually kind of sucks because you're not getting pressure tested anymore, right? You're just kind of like, you kind of meet the level of the room, as opposed to like getting fucked up on a routine basis and learning how to survive and making real leaps and bounds in terms of progress. So don't get discouraged and keep on keeping on. And I'm gonna do this next set at 265 here. Did I do 265 already? Yeah, I did 265 already. All right, so let's go. I did 265 at 5. I'll add that in as, I'll call that my first working set. And we'll put on 10 pounds. We'll go 275 here. And maybe not, well, I don't know. I'll see how this feels. And then we'll play it by ear from there. And don't judge me. I'm not the strongest deadlifter. All right, let's see here. All right, we'll call it there because Daddy feels like that's a good place to call it. So don't get discouraged. All good. By the way, if you have a home gym and you want an excellent piece, oh, did it lose me? Subject lost. No. Face tracking is cool. But when it loses you, I'm not editing any of this, by the way, so deal with it. If you have a home gym, this is an awesome piece of equipment. It is from Kensui, I think is the name of this company. They just make this like super durable plastic grip accessory and like gym accessory stuff. And this is a little jack to elevate your bar a little bit so that you can change plates with ease. So it was like 40 or 50 bucks, worth every penny. I use it almost every single workout. I don't get anything from these guys. I might link it in the comments or in the description. I might not, who's to say? But Kensui, and they also make these things, like grip accessories. This is also from them, and it's just like a neutral grip handle. And again, if you have a straight bar, you just put it in, and now you have a neutral grip handle. I have another pair of grips from them that are like on like a really durable, tough nylon rope that kind of rotates, so you can do like these like supination, pronation, pull-ups, and yeah, good stuff. So let's see here what the next question is. I keep losing the question, so I have to like go into the archive. All right. All right, so this one writes, I do a lot of upper back work and deadlift weekly, but when I roll, I get intense Charlie horses between my scapula and trap. The plural of scapula is scapulae, right? You just add an E to it. So if you want to be a dick about it, you can just start saying scapulae. Then I'm on a heating pad for a week. So one more time. So I do a lot of upper back work and deadlift weekly, but when I roll, I get intense Charlie horses between my scapula and trap. And then I'm on a heating pad for a week. So not really a question, just a statement, just saying. But questions like these are so difficult to answer without much more information. So when I'm doing an initial eval on a patient, right? And again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm some seasoned therapist. I've only done one clinical rotation so far, and I've probably only done, man, how many did I do? I was probably doing 8 to 9 a week. So I don't know, maybe I've done like, what's that math? I'm guessing I did like 8 to 9 evals each week, and I think I was there for 8 weeks. So let's just say I've done maybe 64 evals total, give or take. Maybe it's like closer to high 50s or something like that, or maybe it's a bit more, but around there. And even forget about physical therapy, even when I'm just doing an intake for a new client, I ask them like 1,000 questions. That is the hallmark of a seasoned coach who knows what they're doing. If you come to me with a goal, I'm gonna ask you 1,000,001 questions so I can really whittle it down. And it goes especially true, or goes doubly true rather, for questions like these, dealing with pain. So if you're having intense Charlie horse pain between your scapula, I'm gonna ask you to kind of describe, like, what does a Charlie horse feel like to you? Like, I'm assuming it's like a crampy kind of feeling, and that's usually gonna be indicative of some muscular issue. But if there were, any sharp shooting or lightning type pain, that might be more indicative of a nerve issue. If you had any numbness or tingling, again, that would be more nerve related. And so I'm gonna ask you these questions. I'm gonna ask you to rate the pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being take me to the hospital, 1 being, nothing at all. How would you rate this pain? What's the duration? You mentioned being on a heating pad for a week. Does it take you a whole week to calm down? What are aggravating factors? What are easing factors? What makes it feel worse? What makes it feel better? And so I'm gonna ask you all these questions and more. I'm gonna ask you about night pain. Does it keep you up at night? And again, just an example, I'm asking you 1,000,001 questions. And when I have the answer to all of those questions, then I start to form an opinion. And then from there, I have this embryonic opinion beginning to take shape. I'm gonna have you do some movements. I'm gonna run you through some movements and see, how can I reproduce your pain? How can I reproduce that familiar pain? And once I do that, then I have an idea. Maybe I have like 2 to 4 working hypotheses, and then I'm gonna choose the best one out of those and then make a path. Again, just educated guesses. But it's nearly impossible to answer questions like these with such limited information, right? I need to ask you questions. I need to put hands on. I need a whole lot of info, and I need time with you, right? Because who's to say that my initial guess is correct, right? I could be way off. And so, all that said, Charlie horse cramping type pain that only comes on when rolling, maybe it's a nutrient deficiency. You could have some kind of potassium and sodium thing going on that's causing this muscle in this area to cramp up. So that's one thing you could try. I think electrolyte supplements are super fucking overhyped, but you could try some, intra-session nutrition. So maybe have an electrolyte drink or eat a banana before training to kind of see if that influences it at all. Make sure you're hydrated, of course. And the other thing is, if it's not that, it could just be like a mechanical issue. Like that could be just something you're doing with your movement, because it sounds like you're exercising and you're doing all the stuff that you should be doing. So maybe there's just some provocative movement that's happening in jiu-jitsu that is causing you this pain. So again, very vague answer, but again, I can't really answer questions with such limited info. So I don't even know what I'm doing here anymore, man. I'm fucking up my workout because I'm trying to answer these questions. God. Just kidding. All right, so I'm gonna put this back and I'm gonna set up for the next exercise, and that's fucking boring. So I'll be right back. Okay, we are off to a awful start on this Q&A. So I did it again. I was shooting vertically. I just had to delete 2 minutes of content because I'm a fucking idiot. And so now I'm on to weighted chins, and I just did a warm-up set. And again, the goal here is 2 hard sets of somewhere between 5 and 10 reps. I'm gonna do this set here, and then I'll answer a question. I also had to delete 30 minutes of rolling footage because I only had 4 minutes left on this SD card. So first Q&A on YouTube, absolute fucking dumpster fire. But it doesn't matter because, first of all, nobody's even watching this shit, okay? Maybe there's like 2 of you that are sticking around to the end, and that's okay. I'm going to get better as time goes on, and that's how anything you want to do or want to achieve works. You just have to fucking be bad for a little while, and then you learn what works and learn what doesn't, and you learn how to prepare. But you learn by doing. You don't learn by fucking, just getting paralyzed by trying to make it perfect, right? Who gives a fuck? It's just YouTube. Whew. 8 reps, I think. I don't know. I'll count it when I'm editing. There's going to be minimal editing to this whole thing, by the way, too. I'm going to leave in a lot. Maybe just some like stupid transition shit when I'm setting up, I'll take out. Also, they don't tell you this in the brochure when you first start training jiu-jitsu, but you might lose the ability to fully flex or extend an elbow. I have this issue on both arms, but my right arm is really bad. My ability to extend, if you measure it with a goniometer, my extension is 15 degrees of flexion. Like, I can no longer extend my elbows. I got viciously armbarred by some brown belt twice in the same day when I was a white belt. And yeah, fucked my shit up. Come try jiu-jitsu. First class is free. So, next question is, what's the worst condition you've ever seen a client in? And here's the thing, I could answer this question, but I'm not gonna. And the reason being is I don't wanna betray anybody's trust. Like, yes, I could share about this in a general way that nobody would know who I was talking about. And even if that client was watching this, I could explain it in a way that wasn't so specific to them, but I'd rather just not. Like, I don't want any of my clients to think I would ever betray their trust, and I don't want any future clients thinking that I'm somebody who's gonna share their shit on social media, right? That's not what I'm about, and so I'm not gonna do that. And again, there's no value to it anyway. Everybody starts where they're at, right? Everyone has their own journey. And in my view, so long as you're doing something, you're in that winning category, right? So long as you're taking action towards, even if you're not taking action, even if you're just thinking and considering taking action, I think that's still a trend in the right direction. So I'm not going to share that, unfortunately. So sorry to disappoint. But let's get this next set here, and we'll keep on cracking to the next questions. I don't know when I'm going to release this, by the way. I don't even know if I said this already because I'm fucking all over the place with deleting shit and recording it again. But today's Monday, and New Year's Eve is Wednesday, and New Year's Day is Thursday. I might just throw it up Thursday or Friday. Who knows? We'll see. All right, let's go. Kind of 7 3/4 rep. And almost just broke my fucking foot by dropping this on. That would probably get some views, right? Me getting my foot smashed by a kettlebell. Oh wow, this is some really good YouTube right here. It lost the tracking, the kettlebell fell. Who gives a fuck? All right, it's time for the most important and functional exercise in any grappler's program. You guessed it, bicep curls. So the next question is fitness tests to figure out if I'm in good or bad shape. Any standards? Yes, there are 1,000,001 field tests that you could do to see where you stack up against peers of a similar age and gender. The one I like for cardiovascular fitness is a Cooper's test. There's a couple different ways you can do a Cooper's test. You can do a 12-minute run or row or cycle or whatever modality you want, doesn't matter, just do the thing for 12 minutes and see how much distance you cover in that 12 minutes. You could also do a half Cooper's, which is the same exact thing but done in 6 minutes. There's also a 1.5 mile Cooper's where you gauge how long it takes you to run 1.5 miles. And based on whatever time or distance, then you can look online to see what, how you stack up against peers of a similar age and gender. There's charts online that you could find. In terms of strength, there's standards. I don't know. I don't really test people's strength standards. Maybe I should. You could disagree with me if you're a coach on this. I personally just look at someone's first rep on an exercise, and I can almost tell just by looking at them, where they're at. So I haven't really spent too much time learning about strength standards. Now, a really simple thing you could do is just pick an exercise and do a 10 rep max. And that's a pretty safe way to kind of see where you're at. And there's if you go on exerciseprescription.net, so the website is exrx.net, they have tables for any particular exercise. So just type in, rep max charts, norms or strength standards or whatever. Just put in something like that, and they'll have charts for age, gender, and where you stack up against people of a similar category. So anyway, 10 rep maxes are a safe way to kind of see where you're at. And I'm going to do these set of bicep curls, 75 pounds here. 1. Oh yeah, functional as fuck. All right, the next question is deep dive on the benefits of Oli lifts for older athletes. And I love this, and I think this actually warrants its own video, but I'll share a little bit of my opinion here. The short answer is yes. I think that older combat athletes would benefit from doing some style of Olympic weightlifting. I think that cleans and power cleans are and should be a staple in any combat athlete's program. Just that explosive triple extension, dropping down, squatting, the coordination required. I just think it's such a valuable skill to learn, and it's worth the time cost to learn it. That's the argument against the Olympic lifts, is that they take a long time to learn, and so strength coaches, rightly so, might not want to prioritize that. I understand the argument against it. For example, I'm not going to have any of my combat athletes snatch. I personally don't think the juice is worth the squeeze for the snatch unless the person expresses an interest in wanting to learn the snatch, right? If the person has been training with me for a little while and they want to learn the snatch, then by all, listen, there's value to it, right? That overhead stability, again, the high level of coordination. It's the hardest thing you can do with a barbell, in my opinion, and probably most people's opinions. And so the snatch is a great pinnacle exercise, but again, is the juice worth the squeeze for a combat athlete? So I personally don't feel it is, but I think cleans and power cleans are. Power cleans bridge the gap between strength and power. There's no better exercise to really bridge that gap than the power clean. And so I'll do a whole video on this and my rationale behind it and the benefits of it and how you can incorporate it into your own programming. But for now, I'll just say that yes, I am pro Olympic lift, but within a certain kind of parameter, right? Like again, like snatches and snatch balances and all the snatch derivatives. I'm just not, I don't think it's like a necessary, of course I'm biased, right? Because I can't fucking extend my elbows. So when I go overhead, my right's worse. So I snatch 95 pounds and I'm gonna like fucking blow my right shoulder out. So it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me personally. And so my biases are probably leaking through to my athletes. Surprise, surprise. All right, last exercise of the day, I think. I have to check my spreadsheet, but the last question of the day also is, do I lift and roll on the same day? And the answer is yes. I often do lifting and strength training on the same day. I get this question a lot, actually. And the question is, do I do it before or after? So I'm going to do this set, and then I'll kind of share my thoughts. So I'm doing max rep back extensions. I do this once a week, sometimes twice. I'm adding dumbbells here. I would love to have a setup where I could like put a barbell over here. So I might have to do some rearranging while I'm on break from school. But for now, I'm just using these dumbbells. So I got a pair of 40s here, and I'm just gonna do max reps. So I typically roll at around 11 or 12 in the afternoon. I have clients early morning, and then I have classes usually from like 10 to 12, and I'll usually roll after that. If I don't have class, I'll just do an 11 a.m. rolling session with the guys who come over, and I'll typically lift after that. Now, my preference would be to just do jiu-jitsu on jiu-jitsu days and to just lift on my lifting days and to just do cardio on my cardio days. And given the choice, that's kind of where I'll spend a lot of my time. Like if I can set my schedule up in such a way to do that, then I will. But if it means I have to miss a lift or miss a jiu-jitsu session, then I will not do that. I'm not gonna fuck up my training schedule. So I will lift on the same day as jiu-jitsu. And I do it after, but that's just my personal setup. That's just how my schedule shakes out. Some people will lift beforehand. And I remember reading way back when that, you know, the textbook answer is that you should always do your lifting after your technical and tactical training, right? So you lift after the sport. You do the sport when you're freshest, and then you lift afterwards. I don't know. I kind of challenge that type of thinking because I really think it really boils down to personal preference and schedule, right? I don't think it's useful to like box people in to a specific thing. So try it. Try different setups. Try lifting beforehand and see how you do with your jiu-jitsu. Try that for several weeks and see. And then switch it. Try to lift after your jiu-jitsu and see. I'm of the age where I feel like no matter what I do, like if I'm training like back-to-back lifting and jiu-jitsu sessions, it's going to ensure that I don't do either of them particularly well. And so I don't really pay too much credence to any of that, really. I just kind of like, you know, if it means one suffers, then fine, whatever. Because the most important thing is trends over time, right? Like I might have a shitty session here or there because I'm forced to kind of lift and do the sport at the same on the same day, back to back. But it really doesn't matter because, you know, 5 years from now, I'm not going to remember that one shitty session, but I will have accumulated all of that training. So don't get too caught up in the day-to-day minutia. Really think about trends over time and how that amounts to a really fit life. So that's it. I'm gonna do one more set of these back extensions here, and then I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and then I have a 4 p.m. client, and then I'm done for the fucking day, folks. So let's go. 18 reps. Woo. And the face track lost me again. Low back is cooked. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. All 2 of you.